Please join me in a spirit of meditation and prayer. We pause in this brief hour to attune ourselves once more to our source and our destiny. We turn away from a turbulent and fractious world, seeking rest for our bodies, solace for our minds, and wisdom for our spirits. We acknowledge that we are each divided within ourselves by many worries and distracted by sometimes selfish aims. At times we find ourselves at odds with the people around us, driven apart by difference and made distant by our lack of empathetic imagination. We know that none of us can find our own isolated good, for we are bound as one to each other. We seek to leave behind our worries and distractions, engage the challenges of difference and division, and find renewed strength in trusting spirits and grateful hearts. Together we seek the harmony of a persistently loving spirit. We are grateful to those who have gone before us, who have created a community of spiritual seekers and made this institution sturdy for us, so that we too can stand fast in times like these. We commit ourselves anew to being worthy stewards of all we have been given. Teach us how short time is. Let the work of our hands prosper, and let our hearts grow transparent with the radiance of love. These things and many more together in the silence we now pray. This past Friday, a federal jury decided that Tesla founder Elon Musk was not liable for billions in losses incurred by Tesla investors following one of Musk's late-night tweets. Musk had previously paid $40 million to settle a lawsuit filed by the Securities and Exchange Commission over the matter. As this saga unfolded, someone decided we needed a poem about Elon Musk and the SEC. Titled Elon Musk by Dr. Seuss, the poem reads in part, "The SEC said, 'Musk, your tweets are a blight. They really could cost you your job if you don't stop all this tweeting at night.' He replied, 'Well, I do tweet, and it's really quite neat. And I'll tweet in a while and send you sweet treats.' But the SEC said, 'Nay, you can't tweet anymore. We'll see you in court, and you'll pay a fine for the tweets that you wrote.' Then Musk cried, 'Why? The tweets I wrote are not mean. I don't use all caps, and I'm sure my tweets are clean. But your tweets can move markets, and that's why we're sore. You may be a genius billionaire, but that doesn't give you the right to be a bore.' Then Elon Musk said, 'You're not much fun, and I don't want to sue. But I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll send my Mars rover to Red Planet you.' But then he thought, 'I don't want to start a fight. Instead, I'll just stick to building my cars and launching rockets at night.'" This poem cleverly channels Dr. Seuss, even as it captures the subtlety of the exchange between Musk and the SEC. It turns out that the poem was written by a software program called Generative Pre-trained Transformer 3, or GPT-3. The software was developed by an artificial intelligence laboratory that Musk helped found. The software is based on the idea of a language model that maps the probability of certain words following certain other words. GPT-3 has mapped billions of documents and web pages. It can be given a prompt, a poem about red roses in the style of Sylvia Plath, for example, or a poem about Elon Musk in the style of Dr. Seuss. And GPT-3 will search its set of statistical relationships to come up with text that matches the description. Along the way, GPT-3 has learned some things it shouldn't have learned. If you give it a prompt such as black, Jew, woman, or gay, it will often generate racist, anti-Semitic, misogynist, and homophobic responses. The fundamental problem, The Economist magazine says in an article on GPT-3, is that statistical word matching is not a substitute for a coherent understanding of the world. GPT-3 has claimed, for example, that it takes 2 rainbows to jump from Hawaii to 17. Melanie Mitchell, a computer scientist at the Santa Fe Institute, puts it this way. She says of GPT-3, it doesn't have any internal model of the world or any world, so it can't do reasoning that requires such a model. Melanie Mitchell's observation is both fundamentally important and typically disregarded. When we try to make sense of what we perceive, we don't start from nothing and build a model based on our perceptions. Rather, we begin with a model and fit our perceptions into it. For much of human history, especially in the West, 2 models of the world have competed for dominance. The ancient Greek philosopher Plato believed the most fundamental structures of reality are conceptual or spiritual, and what we experience as the physical world is the temporary creation of cosmic and human minds. The Christian tradition took up this theme with its view that God is spirit, and the most enduring aspect of human existence is the soul. Plato's student Aristotle took the opposite approach, insisting that the most fundamental structures of reality are material or physical. Modern science has developed principally in the wake of Aristotle's approach. The 20th century philosopher Alfred North Whitehead viewed Plato and Aristotle as both 100% half right. Observing that the conceptual world and the physical world are both elements of our experience, Whitehead concluded that everything that exists is made up of relationships among the various conceptual and physical elements of experience. To understand who I am as a person, you need to map not only the organic matter that constitutes my body and the geography that maps my physical presence in the world, but also my inner emotional and spiritual realms that make up my experience. As an individual human being, I am constituted not by my body alone or my mind alone, but by my experiences uniting both with everything else. This effort to map the relationship between the conceptual world and the material world, between the spiritual and physical elements of our experience, seems especially important as we grapple with the relationship between the natural intelligence of human beings and the artificial intelligence of our digital creations. It also comes into play in the relationship between the physical experience of religious community, which has been the dominant model of spirituality since the beginning of time, and the virtual experience of religious community, which began with the television preachers of the 1970s and has grown rapidly in recent years as congregations adapted to the realities of the pandemic. This development has spawned a lot of creativity and a lot of criticism, in part because it requires a paradigm shift. The 20th century English historian Arnold Toynbee famously observed that 22 civilizations have come to dominate the known world over the past 6,000 years. Each was founded on a distinctive religious or cosmological paradigm that shaped its internal cohesion through customs, moral commitments, forms of government, and ways of life. After a period of dominance, Toynbee says, a dominant civilization becomes complacent and fails to meet new challenges, both internally and externally. The creative impulse that propelled it to dominance begins to diminish and eventually gets overcome by critical impulses that destroy the internal cohesion that sustained it. The question of whether this dynamic has become decisive in the arc of U.S. history in particular, and of liberal democracy in general, has been much debated in recent years, and for good reason. The decline of socially constructed structures of meaning, including religious communities, and the corresponding rise of individualist and autocratic forms of living and governing threaten not only our well-being as individuals, but also our well-being as a nation, and ultimately all life on the planet. GPT-3 has also written a poem about Elon Musk's company Neuralink, which builds brain implants to provide a link between human intelligence and artificial intelligence. The poem is titled Neuralink by Dr. Seuss. GPT-3 writes, I have a friend, Elon Musk, who wants to join our brains to AI. He thinks humans can't compete, so he's going to use AI to cheat. They want to build a neural link to link us to the AIs and save humanity from its demise. They want to put an AI in your brain. They want to use your neurons as a frame. They want to save humanity. It's too early to tell whether artificial intelligence will help save humanity or help destroy it. But even GPT-3 has figured out that humanity needs saving, a need that has been the singular focus of religious communities ever since human beings began looking out on the world of experience and asking questions. It's also too early to tell whether the transition of religious communities from a strictly physical presence, both architecturally and programmatically, into the digital world of virtual community and connection will help save religion or help destroy it. No one yet knows what patterns of spiritual practice and what forms of religious community will be morally instructive and emotionally satisfying in the future. Given the challenges and uncertainties that lie ahead, I believe we need to redouble our commitment as a laboratory congregation. We need to place a premium on innovation and experimentation, all the while recognizing that some of our efforts will prove fruitful while others won't. Sometimes the established patterns of living prove to be best, but not always. As a disciple of Whitehead's way of thinking, my own view is that spiritual communities of the future will need to incorporate both a robust physical presence and a robust virtual presence. This is the way we live our lives now. The immediate challenge before us, both as individuals and as a congregation, is to reestablish the physical relationships that constitute our identities and our community. Over the past several years, our focus has been on keeping our connections strong through virtual means, an effort that has been more successful than most of us thought possible. These virtual connections need to remain strong and vital. As the pandemic winds down and the construction in Wigan House comes to an end, we need to redouble our focus on the vitality of our physical life together beyond Sunday mornings. We need increasingly to gather face-to-face, meet one-on-one, and convene in various groups, small and large. These physical connections need to remain strong and vital as well. We are members of the great family of all souls, all of us, both those of us gathered in our physical sanctuary and those of us gathered in our virtual sanctuary. Like extended families in the distant past who needed to learn how to remain families even when some members moved away from the home village, we need to learn how to remain family even when we can't all gather in the same sanctuary. This is the way we live now. This is the new model of our spiritual world. These challenges will require us to rethink our commitments, our customs, our structures of meaning. Interpreted wisely and applied creatively, this new model provides a moral framework for our time that can help us develop a cohesive way of living. Our purpose is to use innovative means to achieve a long-standing goal, the goal of uniting ourselves into the great family of all souls. In so doing, we serve not only our well-being as individuals and as a congregation, but also our well-being as a nation and ultimately as a world community. Amen. I love you. May God bless us all.